Now this is another discussion video that we are doing. You remember that we did a video not so long ago where we were discussing about why people do bonsai. And there was such a good response, amazing response from our viewers. They found it very helpful, so I thought I'd do another little discussion video with you. And a very topical subject that occurs to me is this problem that we are having during lockdown and some of the problems that people are facing. I'm just making sure we are socially distanced,
Yeah.
but none of us are positive. But let's have this discussion about lockdown and how it affects people. There's a lot of talk about stress during lockdown, and people are feeling very stressed. And I think that is the main problem during lockdown, isn't it? So what in your view, Padmapriya, is the stress that people suffer during this time?
I think that there's a break in routine. I think that's one of the major contributions. The failing of the human psyche, I think, is that it doesn't deal with change very well. So when a change is forced upon us, such as lockdowns, we don't really have a strategy for dealing with it. So I think that's probably one of the main reasons. And then I think it's probably a bit environmental. It's a bit like you're
so
kind
the strange, before we go on to the other bits, the break in routine is that means we are not experiencing normal life.
Yeah. You know, we get up, we brush our teeth, we eat our breakfast, we go off to work, we do our work, we come home. You know,
okay.
I mean,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sad that if that's all that life amounts to is just that we just run out these routines.
So if you keep up your normal routine, or for those who are fortunate enough to be able to continue their normal routine, they won't feel so stressed.
That's certainly my experience, because obviously we haven't stopped.
Because our business is not affected.
Yeah. I mean, we're in fields, we're socially distanced.
And we're still working.
Absolutely, yeah.
So our normal routine is going on.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, I'm an acupuncturist when I'm not here, and one of the main things that people come up with is just this sort of break in routine, not knowing what to do with what I consider to be quite a good opportunity, really.
So, well, if we take the worst case scenarios, people lose their jobs. So lack of jobs, and also if you have to be cooped up, you don't go out of the house and you're cooped up in a very cramped living environment, that could cause stress.
Totally. Yeah.
So do you think those are the main reasons? A lack of money as well, I suppose, if you're without a job?
I should think that I'd imagine that there are many different reasons for different people's stress, but the fundamental problem is stress, period. You know, however you get to stress might be different for different people, but it's how we deal with the stress, I think, that makes the difference. So the people that seem to maybe ease through life a little bit easier have probably just got better strategies for dealing with stress than people that haven't quite given any time or explored, you know, what do they do when things aren't going the way they want them to?
Well, that follows, because young people who are not used to it, they may be more vulnerable. Those of us who are older, who've seen more of life, we may have better strategies because we may have faced these sort of situations before.
Yes, yeah, I mean, I can remember, maybe not lockdowns, but you remember like the coal miners' strike and the bin men going on strike and things like that. So we've had examples in our lifetime, I suppose, of, you know, major shifts in the socio-economic climate that has had ramifications through every strata of life. Maybe not to the same degree as this, or maybe more, I don't know, but we've certainly had things to work with in the past, but I can't think of many things in the last 20, 30 years, really, that you know, have required us to have that bigger rethink on how we deal with the way we live our lives.
Right, we're talking about stress and how other people seem to be those who are vulnerable to stress. So can I ask you a very personal question? Do you suffer from stress?
Yes, I think I do. I think that less so now, I mean, 20 years of meditation and trying to change my life, but certainly in my early 20s to probably early 30s, I had huge stress levels. I mean, that's why I changed my life completely. Funnily enough, it was the stress that was the impetus to make the change.
So do you think that has helped you cope with the stress now? We're talking of the present day lockdown situation. I know the lockdown hasn't really affected you because your situation is quite stress-free in a way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But without that transformation, you may not have coped, even though you have very nice surroundings or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it took 15 years of hard work to put myself in a position where I live a very, very simple life. I don't have a lot, but I have enough, and the things that bring me pleasure are the simple things in life. But it took a lot of time and effort to deprogram all of the stuff that I was told when I was younger. You had to have this, you had to have that, you had to have a big job, you needed lots of money, and I did all of that. So I can talk from experience and say that that did not make me happy. So really, it was the stress of all of those things that should have made me happy, not making me happy, made me look for something else. And at least in my case, it was meditation. The Buddhism kind of came along a bit later, but certainly the meditation was the big thing.
Perhaps we'll talk about meditation on another day. Perhaps you can show our viewers how you can achieve simple meditation. But in my own case, I seem to be fairly fortunate that I've never suffered stress. I do get stressed, for instance, when I did my other job, or even when I was running the nursery. There are times when it's very stressful. If things are not going right, or if you have employees that suddenly decide to leave and you're left holding the baby, as it were, it's very stressful. But I've never looked on it as things that are life-changing, It's a situation, and you just deal with the situation. If something emergency happens, you just deal with the emergency, and when the emergency is over, that's the end of story. Like in our day-to-day operations, many people don't see the backroom work that we do. When you deal with customers, you get some customers are nice, some are not so nice. So there are situations like that which causes a lot of stress. Some customers who are difficult cause a lot of stress, so you got to deal with that. And it brings all these emotions of anger and annoyance, how to deal with it. And so sometimes I feel in a moment of anger you do wrong things, but then you got to stand back and say, how can I put it right? So I feel relaxed after that, so it never lasts for a long time.
No.
As they say, I don't know where is it, maybe in one of the holy scriptures, where it says, don't let the sun go down
on an argument.
Like that. Just sort it out. I know there are different ways of dealing with it, but that's the way I deal with my own stress. And again, during this present lockdown, the only thing which has affected me, work-wise it hasn't affected me because our business has carried on almost normal. Although we've had to shut the nursery, our business is going on because of the online business that we have. But what I miss very much is my social life, because I have dancing as my social life, and I used to dance before the lockdown 4 or 5 evenings a week. Monday evenings, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, Thursday or Friday and Saturday. So easily 4 or 5 evenings a week I dance. So I used to meet a lot of friends. So not meeting friends for the last, I would say, 6 or 7 months, since I would say early March, I haven't met any of my dance friends. It can be a bit, worrisome. But because I have other things to do, there's always office work to do, there's always bonsai to make, that has helped me not think about those things. So I begin to think that activity is a lot of the answer to not being stressed. Do you not feel?
I think that
which is quite different from relaxation and meditation.
Yeah, I think that when somebody's stressed, sometimes it's not appropriate when you are stressed out, when you've got children, for example, to stop and have a look at what is going on and seeing what you're bringing to it and seeing if that actually you're making a lot of stress for yourself. So sometimes you definitely need to just respond as best you can in that moment, and like you say, pick up the pieces later. But I think if you want to grow as a human being, a little bit of introspection every now and again is not a bad thing.
So what do you do to do that?
Well, I think...
Give me an example.
I mean, the classic way is to go on retreats.
Not everyone can go on a retreat. If you sit in your home, how do you do that?
Well, me personally,
yes?
So for a start, I'd make sure the place is quiet, so that I'm not going to be distracted. And I make a conscious decision to think about a particular thing. So if something's happened here and I don't feel that I have responded in the best way I possibly could do, that is an opportunity for me to learn from that. Now, I could distract myself by going and playing the guitar, or I could distract myself by going and sitting in meditation and just really enjoying it. But what I can do as well is I can take it as an opportunity to see if there's anything I can learn from that, and to see whether I can become a slightly better human being by doing that. So I'll just sit there, and I won't consciously try to work out what happened, because you just seem to get in the blame game then. But I'll just sit with it, and I'll just see what bubbles up. And sometimes I write things down, or sometimes I see connections between that and maybe things that I do. And quite often I will find that largely the reason I'm getting so stressed about something is myself. It's not the person, it's not even the situation, it's my response to that situation. And that I can do something about. You might not always feel like you can do it in the moment, but...
So how would a person go about doing that?
Yeah, just
a simple way.
Yeah, just sit quietly. I think sitting in nature, I mean, this is lovely, but I just think sitting with few distractions and just allowing that experience to come up again, if you like, and just exploring it in a open-hearted way.
So what goes through your mind?
Very little, hopefully.
No. Do you say, how could I have done it better, is it?
Yeah, I suppose that's
the
the question.
Questions you ask?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first started out, it was very much a case of asking questions. But I think, you know, having practiced so many years now, I can almost just sit in a trance-like state, for want of a better description, and I can just focus on something quite clearly. Sometimes having something that represents the issue is quite a good thing, because you can kind of put it in front of you and you can kind of quite clearly see it. So what I used to do was write things down sometimes, just a little sentence of the problem or the issue that I wanted to think about, or I might have picked up something that, I don't know, like a rock or a stone or something that somehow held some sort of significance of that thing. Yeah, and I put it quite concretely in front of me, and almost have a dialogue with it. You know, sort of like, you know, you can be quite clumsy with it to start with. You can, you know, have your say and then respond to yourself. But I think after a while, you begin to realise that quite a lot of stuff is just down to your own responses, and you can either train yourself to respond better, and that is simply by just allowing a little bit more space between things, or you can just ignore it and just carry on as you've always carried on. And unfortunately, a lot of people do get a lot of, I don't know, energy from their anger.
Energy from anger?
Yeah.
Isn't it destructive?
Yes, it's destructive. I think it's a destructive energy, but a lot of people will... I mean, I would say that when I was younger, I was a very angry person, and I enjoyed my anger. It made me feel powerful. And feeling peaceful doesn't feel powerful. You know, so, you know, I kind of got addicted to those chemicals that run around your body when you're angry, and, you know, adrenaline and all of the others, rather than the dopamine type things that go on when you're meditating and and in a peaceful, open-hearted way of viewing things, I suppose.
Now,
So how do you do it? I mean,
well,
when you're stressed, I mean, it sounds like what you do is you just find something else to do. But
I may be doing it intuitively without going through any formal process. I seem to get the feeling that you analyze it in a more formal way, that you have a problem, you then focus on it. When I have a problem, I just say to myself, should I have done that? Should I not have done that? But I don't go through a formal process. It's just that it's a problem that has come up and you've got to sort it out, and I find a solution for it. But I don't actually go through the mental process of sitting down and looking at just that one problem. There will be other problems coming through, phone calls will be coming through, but that problem is always at the back of my mind, and at the end of the day I found that I have sorted the problem out. So that's how I deal with it. But I must say I'm one of those fortunate people who don't seem to get very stressed. Like you, I did get stressed maybe in my earlier days, but I feel that as one gets older, and hopefully you get wiser, I know there are old fools around, but as you get older you see more of life and you can deal with situations that have happened in the past and you've had solutions for it. So I never panic when these things happen. I like to pride myself in the fact that I'm always a very cool person. In my mid-30s, when I was doing the speech writing, when someone comes to your desk and say, the minister wants a speech by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and you have like 23 or 24 hours to do it, that can cause a lot of stress and panic. And people always used to say that I was cool as ice, I never used to panic. Well, job has to be done, it'll be done. There's no point panicking about it. Although you do feel tense, you feel very tense within you, but I try not to show it. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure. I used to get angry with people. I remember my mother used to tell me, although I didn't know my father for very long because my father died when I was very little, she always used to say that my father never suffers fools gladly, because he was a very clever and intelligent guy. Whenever he came across silly people, foolish people who couldn't do a job, he used to get very angry and stressed about it. So my mother always used to tell him, because you're clever, don't expect everyone else to be clever, So I think that would be a strategy for dealing with it. So people do annoy me who don't do the job properly. I think anyone would get annoyed, if someone does things which are clearly not right. You don't praise him for that. You have to tell him in no uncertain terms that he's done it wrong. But I find that one should not get stressed about it, although initially it causes those feelings of anger, doesn't it?
I think what the lockdown's bringing up is not so much sort of the smaller niggles in life or just the things that you just have to work through. I think that people are coming up against some real fundamental issues.
Like what?
Things like, I was talking to Jack this morning, and apparently the divorce rate in this country's gone up. So people are having to look at, being in a close proximity to people for a long period of time is starting to show the areas of their relationship.
And the partner bashing. It's not just violence against females, but females violent against the husbands or partners, male partners.
I mean, we were talking earlier on. I've stopped watching the news. So I about a year ago, I decided that one of the things that was winding me up was the news, and I thought, well, why am I watching it? So I just stopped watching the news, and I have to say, I feel much better for it. And I still get to hear all the news because nobody else can stop talking about the news. So you get to hear it all, but there's something different about not, literally getting up in the morning, going onto your phone or laptop or whatever, or turning the radio on and just getting just horrific sort of stuff on media where they're just sort of like, it's just so negative. So there's something about choosing my moment to listen to that sort of stuff when I'm better resourced, I suppose. But I think getting back to where Bonsai helps on all of this sort of lockdown stuff is that, you know, a bit like you were saying, you've got these distractions. So like you've got plenty of other things that you can get on with, and one of the things that Bonsai can do is when things are getting so much that you can't make a creative response to something, then distraction is possibly a good way to go. And a healthy distraction has obviously got to be better than drink or drugs or something like that.
Well, yes, I think people, not everyone does bonsai. You know, if you were, supposing, look at my other interest, which is dance. Not everyone has a space like I have, where you can practice dance on your own.
Yeah.
You know, in a living room, what can you do? You can't do very much. So that rules that out. So apart from that, it's just walking in the open on your own. But
meditation.
But coming back to bonsai, you can't be working on a new tree all the time. How many people have the space to do that, isn't it? You worked on a tree, you just look at it. So what relief does that give you?
Well, I mean, we know that you work fast, but I think that you can slow down and do things a bit more mindfully, and, you know, it doesn't all have to be done in 5 minutes, you know. I think that for me, the bonsais I've got at home, I walk out, I have a look at them, I play with them for a bit, I'll come back in again, I'll think about it, I'll go out and have another look at it, and then I might put a bit of wire on it, and, you know, and it just takes, there's a pleasure in not hurrying, you know, I think there's that phrase, isn't there, it's not the goal, it's the journey that's important, you know, and I think that maybe that gets lost a little bit, and, you know, for me, the bonsai that I'm probably the most happy with at the moment has taken 5 years to get to that stage, and if I brought it in, you'd probably laugh. But, you know, I took all the branches off, I've regrown them all, and I'm wiring them as I go, and, you know, you can't hurry nature, it takes time.
I think that's very important, because, you know, many of these great bonsai artists, and I don't like to criticize other people who blog on bonsai on YouTube, they always show the ultimate goal as these great big masterpieces which are created by the great bonsai masters. But I think they somehow lose sight that the enjoyment from bonsai, which I try to convey through my YouTube channels, is that it is creating the simple things that gives you immense pleasure. It's what the ordinary person does rather than what a master does. Watching a master will give you some enjoyment, but can you ever achieve it? It's not that it's sour grapes, but your own journey is more important than watching someone else's journey. So I think if people who are doing bonsai focus on that, that means enjoy your bonsai journey and look at each tree, you know, analyze it in detail without trying to ape these great masters will give you endless pleasure.
It's almost like you've got to find your own path, haven't you? You know, rather than trying, you know, it's good to know the techniques, there's no denying that, but the techniques will only take you so far anyway, and at some point you know, I play the guitar, and I rarely do I learn somebody else's music. I'd much rather make my own up. There's something, I don't know what it is, but there is something in that.
So I think what you said there a moment ago is very, very important. Being shown the path, which again, I'm glad that I'm doing the right things through my YouTube videos, where I'm not trying to show you how great you are. I always like to think of myself as a sports coach, football coach, or whatever other coach it is. I'm not a great player myself, but I can show people how to achieve those ends. You know, showing you the route. It's like being like a sat-nav, you know. I'm the sat-nav. I'm showing you how to reach that destination or goal, and actually enjoying it as you go along. So I think that is very important. So I don't know whether we've dealt with the problem of de-stressing in times of COVID. So the main object of this video is really to ask people to respond and see whether they have their own
what do they do?
solutions. What they do.
Yeah, what do they do?
Yeah, because we don't certainly claim to have all the answers.
No.
We're just raising the questions and seeing how people deal with it. And it's not a superior thing that we're dealing with it very well because we don't feel stressed. I'm just happy that my makeup and my, I think the genes in me, I don't know whether it's inherited or what, but I somehow don't feel greatly stressed. So I'm lucky in that way, but I don't want people to think that I'm just boasting that I don't feel stressed. I'm just lucky that I don't have those feelings. I'm sure other people have those feelings. I've had those from time to time as well. I continue to have it, but it's nice to know how people deal with it and whether their hobby of bonsai helps them in any way.
I think it's always nice to know that something that you're passionate about brings not just enjoyment to somebody, but some sort of level of fulfillment, something that manages to lift them out of the ordinary in some way. And I think that bonsai is one of those things that can do that. I think that meditation is definitely something that can do that. But for me, the gift of giving meditation to somebody else was more than doing the thing myself. So
the next video, I'll get you to do some simple
if
tips
you wish.
and
I'm always
teach
happy to
people
share.
how to do meditation. So with that, we will sign off, and I hope we get good responses to this video.